The stories I'm about to share with you are based on true events. Becoming consumed in a virtual world has dire consequences. Gamer psychosis, paralysis, and death can occur. Extreme gamers play at least 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Case number 1. Gamer psychosis. Our first case is about a 20-year-old college student put under psychiatric evaluation. Video games became an unhealthy obsession that led to psychosis. His suspicious and abusive demeanor made balancing schoolwork difficult. Add this with an unstable mental state and you have a recipe for disaster. His psychiatric evaluation states, the patient experienced a traumatic childhood. In order to cope with this toxic environment, he sought peace in video games. This coping mechanism was carried into his college years. A stressor may have caused the patient to play video games for 16 hours a day for 3 months straight. He neglected his schoolwork, social life, and personal care. During this time, he developed symptoms of psychosis. The patient grew extremely suspicious of his neighbors, believing they would kick his door in at any second. Isolation mixed with paranoia created a living hell. The patient was averaging only 4 hours of sleep while not getting proper nutrition. He heard explosions and voices in his head, feeling like everybody was out to get him. Auditory hallucinations are a living nightmare because the mind is turning against you. Your nightmares come to life. Meanwhile, people around you are worried. Once the patient arrived at our facility, he underwent shock therapy while being given antipsychotic medication. After 3 weeks of treatment, the patient was stabilized, then released from the facility. Weekend gamers are not safe either. In 2018, a Chinese man was paralyzed after playing computer games for 20 hours straight. On Saturday evening, the man entered an internet cafe, during which he started playing games, then entered a trance-like state, refusing to eat or use the restroom. Instead, the gamer got carried away by his addiction. He played video games until the following Sunday afternoon. The man wanted to use the restroom but had lost all feeling in his legs. He began to panic, then told his friends to call an ambulance. People were shocked because they couldn't believe what had just happened. Emergency personnel arrived and carried the paralyzed man onto an ambulance. He was screaming at his friends, telling them to finish the game. Unfazed by his paralysis, all he could think about was getting back online as soon as possible. Playing video games for 2 hours is a lot for me, but 20 hours a day becomes an obsession. Hopefully, this man finds a better hobby that doesn't land him in the hospital. Same thing applies for this next case, involving an 18-year-old high school student who arrived at the psych ward in terrible condition. Gamer psychosis number 2. He was in a state of extreme paranoia after playing for about 14 hours a day with limited restroom breaks. The human brain is not designed to be plugged into the virtual world. After the high schooler voiced his concerns about the voices in his head, people were questioning his mental state. Experts concluded that excessive gaming without personal self-care triggered the psychosis. A 1-month video game bender with lack of sleep, a terrible diet, and no breaks triggered the psychosis. The patient spent 2 weeks in a mental health facility for treatment. Auditory hallucinations, paranoia, and poor hygiene were the physical manifestations of living like a bot. Being plugged in for too long feels good in the moment, but will ultimately ruin your life. Touch grass, get some sun, and talk with other people. Your body, mind, and soul will thank you. This patient learned that lesson the hard way. This next story happened around 2015. A gamer was playing on the computer for 40 hours straight. Non-stop gaming without bathroom breaks or food caused his body to shut down. Camera footage shows the man falling back in his chair lifelessly. It took some time for people to notice. Everyone was in their own little world, ignoring the person dying right next to them. Once somebody finally noticed, they found the gamer unresponsive. A bystander zoomed in on the man's lifeless face. His body gave out due to exhaustion. A 40-hour bender with no bathroom breaks or food is why he became unresponsive. Sitting for hours on end without sleep can lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Sadly, the man in the video died from cardiac arrest. Nobody noticed until his body began to stiffen. It's really disturbing that a room full of people didn't notice a dying person right next to them. Authorities determined he had been dead for several hours before people noticed his corpse. Asian countries have a die-hard gaming culture that pays gamers for winning tournaments. It is no secret that internet cafes are a safe haven for these extreme gamers. There have been numerous cases of gamers dropping dead from excessive gaming. In 2002, a man named Kim died from playing video games for 86 hours straight. He is believed to be the first person to die from excessive gaming, but there were many more deaths to come. In 2005, when a man named Lee from South Korea also died in an internet cafe, the government took action. A few months later, the South Korea Agency for Digital Opportunity and Promotion started sending psychologists to internet cafes to disperse information about the negative impacts of excessive gaming. And while the effort seems to have slowed down the number of deaths in that country, The problem spread across East Asia. A Chinese man identified as Zhang died in 2007 from playing games for 7 days straight. 4 years later, another Chinese 33-year-old died from extreme gaming. The year after that, an 18-year-old named Chang died from playing Diablo 3 in Taiwan. Gamer Psychosis Case Number 3. A 19-year-old gamer was rushed to an emergency facility after experiencing intense fear about a group of atheists trying to kill him. The dedicated mobile gamer gradually became obsessed with iPhone games. 3 hours a day turned into 6 hours a day, and from that point on, the patient was fully entrenched in a virtual world. A world so addictive that he started hearing voices, sounds of violence, and had trouble sleeping. Everyone around him began to notice his strange behavior, after he was constantly in a state of fear and aggression. The voices in his head were unbearable, to the point of constantly lashing out. The patient was slowly losing touch with reality. Sounds of creepy footsteps, gunshots, and screaming made him violent. His parents took him to an emergency facility looking for help. Clearly suffering from gamer psychosis, doctors put the young man on antipsychotic drugs. The patient was stabilized, then released from the facility. These cases highlight the dangers of extreme video game addiction. Gamer Psychosis is a real-life horror game that tortures the mind. Like any addiction, users have a tendency to push things to the limit. It feels good at the moment, but then you wake up and realize your health is deteriorating. Eat healthy, work out, and have a blessed day. I'll see you in the next video.